Over $190 billion is currently spent annually to combat the medical costs associated with one of the most rapidly growing epidemics in existence. Plaguing 1/3 of the population, this disease heightens the risk for heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancer. Unlike polio, smallpox, and the Black Death, however, this epidemic brings with it a surprising twist. It is preventable. Obesity is becoming an alarmingly drastic issue in need of an even more drastic solution. Simply adjusting one's nutrition or physical activity is often not enough to combat the overpowering grasp of obesity. A whole-life intervention is needed. My ethnographic investigation brought me to the Bariatric Physician Specialists of Lancaster General Health, a facility that provides lifestyle interventions and surgical procedures to the overweight and obese population. Although it may seem unlikely such a diverse group of individuals of all different backgrounds could share cultural norms, behaviors, and stereotypes, as I found out, this was in fact the case. The purpose of my investigation was to assimilate into this unique overweight-obese community and learn of their culture. The following details my experience with the Bariatric Physician Specialists of Lancaster General Health. Sitting patiently in the waiting room, I immediately was identified as an outsider. Waiting along with me were 5 morbidly obese bariatric patients. I could feel them slowly scanning me, giving me a once-over in an attempt to understand the reason for my visit. Taking up only half of the oversized bariatric chair, it was clear I had not come to this location for weight loss purposes. Although I felt slightly uncomfortable and out of place, I noticed a lack of hostility in their gazes. It was as though they really wished to talk to me, but they didn't quite know how to break the ice. This stalemate continued until a loud, booming voice echoed through the waiting room rotunda. "Brian!" I heard a voice exclaim. Startled, I turned towards the source of the sound and came face to face with Corey, an incredibly fit, intimidating exercise professional I had talked to on the phone regarding my study. After introducing himself, he then turned to the others in the waiting room and asked, "Have you all met Brian?" Surprised, I turned to the others and introduced myself, explaining my purpose for visiting their center. I had barely just met Corey and he was already trying to introduce me to everyone in sight. I was greeted by warm smiles, a bombardment of questions, and much interest regarding my study. Thanks to Corey's impromptu introduction, all the uneasiness I previously felt was quickly erased, and I felt as though I had already assimilated into their unique culture. After Corey gave me a tour of the facility, he had to resume his motivational workday. This gave me the opportunity to mingle and conduct an interview with Jack, a patient at the center. After our discussion, I learned many of the harmful stereotypes associated with being obese, such as being seen as lazy, when in reality many of them are not. The next day, I returned to the monthly support group. This would give me the opportunity to gain more of an insider perspective. After listening to an opening lecture, we were required to break up into groups. Luckily, I found a group willing to accept an outsider to their community. Soon after sitting down, I realized I was not the only outsider in the group. An elderly woman sitting on my left had brought her daughter along to listen in. This was the perfect opportunity to gain an unbiased outsider's view of the culture as well as an insider response. "I just don't understand why you feel like you need surgery," I heard the daughter say quietly. "Can't you just exercise more?" It was clear she did not see the point behind going through all this trouble to lose weight. Just as I held preconceived notions prior to entering the facility, it was clear she did as well. Thinking no one heard her, I planned on just ignoring the comments. Unfortunately for the daughter, it seemed all members of the subgroup heard the comments. She was met with cold stares and hostility. The daughter capitalized on many of the stereotypes these patients have come to detest. "No, we can't just exercise more," a woman at the far end of the circle said, breaking the silence. In an attempt to de-escalate the situation, a man responded calmly saying, "I'm glad you bring up that point." He continued to explain the struggles and stereotypes associated with many of the bariatric patients, and the fact that no, exercising and eating less won't always solve the problem. As I learned during our interview, oftentimes people find themselves struggling with obesity because of certain medications they are put on. Laziness or lack of appropriate diet is not the sole reason many of us find ourselves here at the center, he closed. A bit dumbfounded, I could tell the daughter regretted starting the group discussion off on the wrong foot. Attempting to reconcile her misconceived notions, I explained how I wondered many of the same questions when I first arrived at the Bariatric Center. It was not until I gained an insider's perspective that I really understood.